I got this email in from JR. Kim, you say you are a progressive, but you often seem to take right-wing talking points and only seem to criticize the Democratic Party. Are we witnessing a Dave Rubin style grift? Well, JR, thank you so much for your question. I do like to get all of your emails and I read all of them in my inbox. I can't respond to all of them, but I do read them. And I appreciate this question. I get this question a lot, and I think it's probably time I answer it or clarify some things. First of all, if you don't know what a Dave Rubin style grift is, Dave Rubin is, he has a big show here on YouTube and I think other platforms as well. And I believe he started off with TYT. So he was a progressive with TYT. I should say he's a gay man living in Los Angeles, married, has checked all the boxes of identity politics and was on the TYT network. And then slowly, I think he started to, he had his own show and he was kind of questioning sort of the stuff that was coming from the left. And he was sitting down with a lot of people who were questioning those narratives. And I actually I don't watch his show as much anymore, but because I don't really have time, but I like Dave Rubin. I did watch his show previously and I watched the transformation happen for my own self. I watched him go from curious and slowly being convinced by all of his guests that the left wing of America or liberal America or Democratic Party or whatever, the culture, especially he focuses a lot on the culture, that it was, for him, he felt like just bunk. And I saw him sort of transition and become more and more conservative to the point where he now is I believe, very conservative, maybe libertarian, but certainly identifies more with right-wing America than left-wing America like he used to. So the idea of the grift is that I would go from being this progressive leftist to suddenly becoming actually a right-winger. Some people accuse me of being a Republican in disguise, that I'm just pretending to be a left-wing progressive, and actually I'm going to come out and say, ha ha, I got you all. I'm actually a Republican and join me or something, the dark side. That is not what's happening here. So let me explain. I think the first thing that has to happen is we would have to determine what is the definition of progressive, because that term has changed and shifted. I don't think it was me that changed. I think it was actually the term progressive that changed. So for me, I identify, and I have identified as a progressive mainly because of Bernie Sanders' 2016 campaign. So I am for Medicare for all. I believe in a universal healthcare sort of system. It doesn't have to be Medicare for all specifically. There's many other ways to go about this. Europe proves that. Every country has its own way. But I do want a healthcare system that provides for all of the citizens in this country. I do believe in either extremely low cost or free higher education. Doesn't have to be college, can be trade schools, whatever. But I do believe investing in our youth is one of the most important things that we can do for our future, the health of this nation. We're about to be dumbed down significantly. Asia is outpacing us. They invest in their children's education, and if we don't start doing that, we will not be the greatest nation. We're already on track to be overtaken by China, and it'll be even more definitely so if we don't, make some serious decisions on that. I believe in ending the wars. We're spending way too much money on the war, various wars, and because of that, we're not able to invest in America, in American people, in American infrastructure, in American entrepreneurship, innovation, technology. So we need to end wars. That is my number one issue, because I do believe, I take that. It's actually my number two. My number one issue is getting money out of politics. And I always thought that was the main thing that made a progressive was you want to get money out of politics. So that was like kind of the barometer. And then from there, it would be sort of a Medicare for all sort of thing. And the war thing isn't so much with progressives, I've found. But for me, that is number two. So for me, it was getting money out of politics. Number two is ending war, because I'm about life and death, and that's the ultimate life and death. And then three would be Medicare for all or a system equivalent. which is also a life and death issue for me. And then there are other things I agree with, like I said, with education and just a more equitable, fair system in society where the wealth doesn't get siphoned all the way to the top. I don't agree with trickle-down economics because I believe that's exactly what happens. It just trickles. There's kind of this idea that it will flood down to the middle class, and it doesn't. It trickles, and that's not working. So those issues to me, and I'm sure there's others, I'm pro-choice, but there are things that I don't agree with the left on that do make me maybe more of a right-winger or have right-wing talking points. For example, the Second Amendment. I actually am a proponent of the Second Amendment and defender of the Second Amendment to a degree. I think we should have some, sensible regulations, but I'm much more to the right than most of my counterparts that call themselves progressives when it comes to the Second Amendment. Free speech, that's a big one. I don't know why that's suddenly now a right-wing issue, but it is, and I am right there with them for it. I'm all about free speech. I don't think ideas should be censored, no matter how abhorrent you think those ideas are. And I know that's not popular with a lot of people on the left. Look, so, I've got a mixed bag of ideas, but again, my main one was and is getting money out of politics. And I thought that was the term. That's what progressive meant. But at the end of the day, guys, what I noticed during this election cycle in particular was that the term progressive has changed. The people who call themselves progressives fiercely, what happened was, because there is sort of this cancel culture that has invaded the left. And I feel like what happened was, if you're a progressive, you can only call yourself a progressive if now it feels like, unless you have to agree with everything 100% on the left, and you really ultimately at the end of the day are a Democrat, that you cannot like anything that's going on in the right wing. The GOP is corrupt and evil and immoral. And if you even act like you like anybody on that side, you're just not on our team. That's what it has become. And I absolutely do not agree with that. I completely reject that. I do not play team sports. Politics are not an identity. They're not a religion. They are not something you're born into. And every election cycle, you actually should take a step back and reassess where you stand on the issues and what the parties stand for. It shouldn't be, I'm a lifelong Democrat. That's actually not a good thing. Or to be a lifelong Republican. That shouldn't be a good thing. That's like, I'm a lifelong Dodgers fan, or I'm a lifelong, whatever. I mean, it's crazy. We shouldn't be that. You should be independent in thought every election cycle. Every time you go to vote, you should be researching the issues and determining for yourself as an independent what you agree with. But instead, we've reeled into this team sport mentality, which is so unhealthy for our country. And it is, you're either on one side or the other. And if you're on this side, you can't like anything on that side. And if you do, then you're not one of us. And that's what it's become. And I found that the progressives, especially in this election cycle, we first saw it with the controversy over Tulsi Gabbard. There were many of us who were progressives, who called ourselves progressives, who really liked Tulsi Gabbard. She's my number one candidate. I hope she runs again in 2024. Probably won't be running as if she were to run again. I don't know. I don't know. But I would think if I were running her campaign, it probably wouldn't be with the Democratic Party. I can't imagine how she could stay with that party, how they treated her, but that's her choice and her thing, so we'll see. But many of us who supported Tulsi Gabbard got demonized by other progressives and kind of cut out, and then there was kind of this divide. And then I've seen increasingly the same divide happen with Joe Biden. Once he got the nomination, then there was this sort of, look, you must support Joe Biden. This is what always happens every election. It's an existential crisis. This is the most important election of our lifetime, and you have to support our guy, because if you don't, you're immoral, and therefore you're absolutely not one of us. And I think we saw that with progressives right now. We're seeing this shift to vote blue no matter who. And I just don't fall into that camp. I think Joe Biden is a dangerous candidate for a million different reasons. And because I have that thought, because I believe he is worse than Donald Trump, actually, for many reasons, I am now cut out of the progressive camp. I've been demonized. I've got, one progressive channel. I know he's been publicly calling me a racist. It's kind of ironic. the guy that's all about identity politics, right? And he's fallen into that camp. He's a white male and he's calling me, the Asian female, racist. And he like holds on to the identity politics of Democrats. I mean, it's just insane to me. And I think there is an insanity that is seeped into the left, mainly just out of visceral hate for Donald Trump. And I'm hoping they kind of come back down to normal now that Donald Trump is not going to be in office. And, you know, maybe they'll calm down and the insanity will calm down. I don't know. But look, I don't think it's healthy to be on one side or the other. I will say also that I do feel the progressive movement has changed. And I definitely do not agree with a lot of the things that a lot of the progressives are saying these days. I think a lot of that stuff is insane and radical, and I am not for it. Many of you know I have never been for banning getting rid of the Electoral College. I think we could get rid of the electors, the actual people who could go and change their mind on behalf of America. I think that's kind of that needs to go. We can make reform to the Electoral College, but I don't think we need to abolish it. Some leftists are calling for abolishing the Supreme Court, abolishing the Constitution. I heard that one. This whole narrative of it's socialist versus communist. You know, capitalist. If you're a capitalist, then you're not one of us. You know, you have to be a socialist in order to be a progressive. Then I'm not a progressive in that case, guys. Because I believe in a healthy mixed economy. I want the Scandinavian model. I've always said that, and I'm sticking with it. I like innovation. I like technology. You know, I like innovation and entrepreneurship, and I don't think things should be run by committee. There's just a lot of stuff that has become really, really radical. The defund the police movement. Do I believe that we spend, like the military, way too much money on police? Probably, and we probably could scale that back and invest in people, put that money back towards the people in order to build up communities so we don't need so many police officers. But that doesn't mean I just want to get rid of police officers. You know, some of these ideas have become crazy to me, and I just can't get on board with it. So if that means I'm not a progressive and I'm grifting away, then I guess that's what that means. But you know, I hate to be cliche because this is something Dave Rubin says. It's like, I didn't leave the left left me. I feel that way. I didn't leave you. You left me and went crazy. Went crazy. So now I do find myself agreeing with a lot of things that have been taken up by right-wing America. You know, their free speech, the advocating for free speech and stopping the censoring from big tech or from anybody. I agree with that. We are a country of ideas. In order to be a healthy, free society, we must be a society that allows the exchange of ideas, and not just ideas you agree with. Sometimes those ideas are going to be immoral and abhorrent and despicable to you, but that's what a free society is about. So I agree with that. Also, I watched Tulsi Gabbard, and she has been having to partner with Republicans on issues such as freeing Julian Assange and Edward Snowden. I mean, my God, why is that something from Republican side of the aisle that shouldn't be, but it is? Same thing with securing our elections. Now it's the Republicans calling for election security, and Democrats are scoffing at it. I don't understand this team sport mentality. That is what I'm against. So, you know, somebody actually laid this out really well for me, and they said that, you know, the issue is that there are progressive Democrats and there are progressive populists, and I fall in the progressive populist camp. So that populism means that there are conservative populists that I agree with more than Democrats, establishment Democrats. So progressive Democrats, they would find themselves agreeing a lot with establishment Democrat folks more than they would any conservative, because they don't have anything in common with them. Whereas as a progressive populist, I would have some things in common with a conservative populist. So yes, there are times that I take on, I guess, right-wing talking points. If those right-wing talking points are conservative populist talking points, then I am going to agree with them naturally more than Democrats, establishment Democrats. I don't agree with any of those people. So, we watched this kind of shift happen with the progressives. We've seen them move from having a common, we all kind of agreed on a set number of goals, and that that changed as soon as Joe Biden got the nomination and he wasn't for any of those goals. I mean, think about that. Joe Biden, what was a progressive for? Getting money out of politics. Joe Biden took 5 times more money from Wall Street than Donald Trump, right? The second thing that progressives are for, Medicare for all. Joe Biden has specifically said he's not for that. Now, what progressives say is, yeah, but he'll get us a little closer to it than, let's say, the Republicans. That's maybe true or maybe not. I don't know. They're all bought off, so it's hard to say, right? The third thing, ending wars, that's not coming from the Democrats anymore. I mean, that's coming more from Tucker Carlson, not Rachel Maddow. If you want to talk about your dear leaders on network television, you've got Tucker Carlson on the right and you've got Rachel Maddow on the left. Who's calling for Russiagate? And it's the Russians and we got to keep our eyes on the Russians. And meanwhile, who's the other side saying we got to end these wars and bring the troops home? Crazy to me. But you know what? It's not coming from the Democrats. So the issues that many of us care about, that we prioritize as what we said we wanted as progressives. Now, there are some other things, raising the minimum wage, that does come from the Democratic side of the aisle, and I agree with that. The people that say, that's going to raise prices and businesses they're not going to be able to pay employees. Guys, that was the same argument that slave owners made. Well, we can't pay these people. The price of goods are going to go up and economies are going to collapse. It didn't happen. It won't happen. Just pay people so that they can live the American dream. Pay people so they don't have to be on welfare because you don't want them on welfare. Pay them. Pay them for their job. Pay them for what society requires for us to live decent lives, not lives that are lives of luxury, but just decent lives. So, yes, there are a lot of things I agree with on that side. And then it turns out there's a lot of things I agree with on the other side as well. So I would say, at the end of the day now, look, the progressive movement has kind of shifted. Therefore, really radical ideas, fellow progressives that I'm friends with, that I admire and I look up to in a lot of ways, they shifted on me and kind of became really, really radical. And so at the end of the day, I think that it's safer to say I'm an independent populist, I suppose. And everybody should be that, quite frankly. Everybody should be independent. You should be independent. Make your own choices. Don't rely on the party to tell you what to think. Think for yourself. And you don't have to vote on all the same things that the party votes on and agree with everything that they say. They make these long, enormous lists, and there's no way you could agree with all of those things. So take a step back and maybe not make a political party your identity or a label your identity, and just say, look, I'm independent. And be a populist. That means you're for the people, that you think the elites are running off with our money. Now, not everybody's going to be a populist, especially if you are an elite. Some elites are. I know them. And they are actually populists, even though they happen to make a bunch of money. But a lot of elites are, they want to continue the wealth heist. They want to continue the status quo, and they're not about wanting to change our political system. They've been able to grease the wheels of the politicians, giving them money, and they don't want to stop. They don't want to stop. And that is what the rest of us need to work against. So, I guess some people would say it depends on the topic, of course, the talking points that I might have picked up. I am for the average person, and I am for helping that average person achieve an American dream that was sold to us as children that is increasingly impossible to have. Now, we might not agree on exactly how to get there. Myself and, let's say, a conservative populist might not agree exactly on how we're going to achieve these things. But at the end of the day, we want to achieve them. We have that common goal. And I don't care which side of the aisle the change comes from. If the Republican Party suddenly transforms, because they have no idea who they are anymore, and there is a chance that the Republican Party shifts and changes and morphs and becomes the old progressive Republican Party of Teddy Roosevelt, except hopefully with less war, because they'll have the most popular news channel in America, Tucker Carlson, saying, let's not go to war. That might happen. There is a chance. And if it does, guys, I'm all there for it. I don't care. I don't play team sports. I'm not red or blue. I am red, white, and blue. And you should be too. You like that, Dr. Seuss rhyme? So that is the answer to that question, JR. I have said I am a progressive. I still feel like I am a progressive, but I don't think I can use that label as much anymore because I think it means something that I'm not anymore. It has shifted to something I think more radical than I'm comfortable with. I don't want to make lists of Trump sycophants. I don't want to punish the wealthy. I don't want to get rid of capitalism. I don't want to end abolish the Senate, the Supreme Court, or the Electoral College. There are just things I don't agree with that have become sort of the ideology of those in that wing, what they're advocating for. And so I'm probably going to stop using the label, to be honest with you. And no, you're not witnessing some grift where I run over to the conservative side and I become a conservative. I am an independent, and you should be too. Thank you so much for watching. Please, if you'd like to email me your questions or comments, research. A lot of you send me some great topics. I love it. I get a lot of great ideas from you guys. I appreciate it so much. My email address is kim@kimiverson.com.